The third season of the twisted Netflix romance You has recently premiered, and die-hard fans have likely already binged the series. If you're on the fence about whether or not you should watch the third season, or if you simply need a refresher before going in, this video is for you. Join Trender as we explore everything you need to know before binging You Season 3. The third season of You premiered on October 15th, which means die-hard fans have likely already binged it at least twice. However, there are still plenty who haven't watched it yet, and some might be on the fence about whether or not to take a dive back into the twisted world of Joe Goldberg and his obsessive tendencies. For those thinking about binging the third season, watch the rest of this video before you do. As always, the third season of You follows Joe Goldberg, but this time there's a new addition to the cast, with that being Joe's newborn baby. Joe has certainly come a long way since the show initially premiered on Lifetime several years ago. This new season, the second to make its debut on Netflix, is aiming to be the most twisted yet. If you're going in blind or if you need a refresher, you're going to want to know what's gone down until now. Season 3 finds Joe up to many of the same tricks he's become known for in the show's past seasons, although he is trying to get the better of his homicidal tendencies for his little new one. The plot of You started with Joe working at a bookstore in New York City. The audience wasn't sure what to make of him initially, as his obsessive and murderous ways hadn't come to the forefront. Instead, they were given a chance to discover what Joe was really like alongside Guinevere Beck. Played by Elizabeth Lail, Guinevere was Joe's main obsession during You's first season, and this served as the season's main plot. Sadly, things didn't end too well for Guinevere. Guinevere comes into the show a promising writer, and it at first seems Joe might simply have an innocent crush. However, Joe's feelings for the woman soon begin to evolve into something much darker when he begins following her around in public wearing a disguise, as well as learning as much as he can about her by studying her social media pages and tapping her phone. It's through these methods Joe learns about Benji, who is a friend of Guinevere's that she casually hooks up with. Believing that Guinevere and Benji are dating, Joe kidnaps Benji and locks him in a vault made of plexiglass. He then gives Benji a cup of coffee laced with peanut oil, which Benji is allergic to. Benji dies, and this is the first time the audience is given the privilege of seeing Joe Goldberg commit a murder on camera. Since this murder, Joe's body count has only grown, but Joe hasn't been the only one of the show's characters to kill. Joe uses the death of Benji as an entrance point to begin dating Guinevere, and her friend begins becoming suspicious of Joe. That friend's name is Peach, and she is secretly in love with Guinevere. When Peach starts to become too suspicious about who Joe really is, he commits his second murder. Joe stages Peach's murder to look like a suicide. He's not caught, but Guinevere still starts becoming skeptical of him and decides they need to take a break. Several months later, Joe and Guinevere get back together, but things are far from idyllic. Guinevere is attending therapy, and the therapist is played by John Stamos. It shouldn't have surprised audiences too much when it was revealed Guinevere was secretly having an affair with her therapist behind Joe's back. Joe becomes furious, but has more to deal with than jealousy when Guinevere reveals she's learned his darkest secrets. Hey, if you're enjoying this video so far, be sure to give it a like, and subscribe to Trender for more. While Joe is angry about the fact that Guinevere has been cheating on him with her therapist, Guinevere is angry because she's found out that Joe is an insane and murderous stalker. Once it's revealed that Guinevere knows the truth, Joe locks her in his plexiglass dungeon. But Guinevere has a plan to get out. Locked in, Guinevere begins writing a manuscript that is meant to frame her therapist for all of Joe's murderous crimes. Once she's finished, she offers the manuscript to Joe as a sign of trust. Joe is won over, but the whole thing turns out to have been a ploy concocted by Guinevere to get advantage over Joe so she can subdue him and make a clean escape. She traps Joe in the plexiglass vault and begins looking for help. While doing so, she comes across Joe's young neighbor. Previously in the season, Joe had killed the abusive boyfriend of the young boy's mother, which allowed Joe to gain the boy's loyalty. The boy denies Guinevere his help, and Joe escapes the plexiglass vault. Against all odds, Joe comes out of the situation alive, and Guinevere doesn't. After killing Guinevere, Joe takes her manuscript and uses it to frame her therapist, Dr. Nikki. By the end of You's first season, Joe has successfully framed Dr. Nikki, but a twist comes when a previous love interest of Joe, whom he believes he has successfully killed, shows up to haunt him. This love interest is Candace, played by Amber Childers. Joe had previously left Candace to suffer the same fate as Guinevere, but apparently he hadn't done the job correctly. Season 2 starts with Candace back in Joe's life and looking for revenge, meaning Joe needs to get away fast. He travels to LA and kills a man named Will Bettelheim to take his identity. As Will, Joe begins living a normal life around Los Angeles. That is, until he finds a new obsession. Joe's new obsession comes in the form of a woman named Love, who works at her family's health food store. He gets a job at the store to romance her, which he successfully does. He even becomes friendly with Love's twin brother, 40. However, things go south when 40 introduces a new girlfriend named Amy, who turns out to be Candace, back for revenge once again. While all this is going on, Joe becomes obsessed with trying to help his neighbor, who's a woman named Delilah, who was raped by a stand-up comedian named Henderson when she was a teen. Henderson is looking for fresh blood, and his newest target just so happens to be Delilah's sister. Joe is observing the situation from afar, and he decides he needs to help Delilah and her sister by killing Henderson. After he kills Henderson, Delilah suspects him. Because of this, Joe locks Delilah in his newest plexiglass dungeon until she calms down. Although Joe fully intended to let Delilah go, he leaves and comes back to find she has shockingly been murdered by an unknown assailant. Candace shows up, having tracked down Joe to the storage unit where he's keeping his LA plexiglass prison. Candace locks Joe in the prison alongside the deceased Delilah, but Love shows up and murders Candace to save him. As it turns out, Love is the one who killed Delilah. Not only that, but Delilah isn't the first person Love has killed. Love's figured out who Joe really is. Love murdered someone herself when she was little, which makes her feel a kinship with Joe. Joe finds himself terrified of Love, but refrains from killing her when Love reveals she is pregnant with his baby. Season 2 of You ends on this cliffhanger, and now Season 3 is here to show us what happens when Joe attempts to start a new and honest life with Love and his newborn baby. Those of you who have followed Joe Goldberg over the course of You's first 2 seasons are certainly going to get more of the same from this new third one, with Joe inevitably returning to his obsessive ways despite his yearning to lead a normal life with his newborn child. The third season recreates the formula of the first 2, right down to Joe having a new plexiglass vault to imprison his victims in. Joe has a new love interest this time and is finding himself increasingly disgusted by the new partner he's only with because she had his child. Love, meanwhile, is as obsessive as ever in her own right, being completely unwilling to let Joe go. Joe's new obsession is his and Love's neighbor, played by Michaela McManus. The third season is sure to titillate fans who have gotten off on the exploitative romantic escapades of Joe Goldberg in the past, and those who are wondering how he's going to handle fatherhood won't want to miss it. Now it's time to hear from you. Comment down below to share if you're excited to start binging the third season. And before you go, make sure you give this video a like and subscribe to Trender if you haven't already. Click the bell icon to stay updated on all our latest content.